support getting this all together. And I'd like to say hello to everybody who is joining this virtual forum. This is a really tough time with all the physical distancing, and we miss all the nasty women at our regular monthly meetings, and hope everybody is well and healthy, and really appreciate you stretching your limits and coming to these virtual forums. We know it takes a lot sometimes to adopt new technology, but we made it. So welcome to our third Nasty Women New Mexico Virtual Candidate Forum. My name is Felice Garcia, and I'm the founder of Nasty Women New Mexico, and along with fellow Nasty Women New Mexico member Paula Jackson, will be moderating tonight's forum. Tonight, we are featuring two Democratic candidates from New Mexico Senate District 10. If you're a District 10 resident, thanks so much for watching, because this is a race that will directly affect you. Some of you that are here may not live in Senate District 10, but it also affects you because, unfortunately, the New Mexico Senate has become the place where good progressive legislation often goes to die. From decriminalizing abortion and marijuana to a commission to consider paying our legislatures, just to name a few. The Senate stops progress. We know some of you may not be able to vote for the candidates in District 10, but our hope is that you will reach out and involve others, and that you will find a candidate that you can strongly support, whether she or he is in your district or not, and work to support that candidate in every way possible, including getting others in that district involved. This is your chance to get active. You may not be able to vote in this specific race, but you can volunteer and donate to candidates of your choice, whether you live in their district or not. We have videos of our previous forums for District 9 and 20, YouTube videos, and invite you to look at them from our Nasty Women New Mexico website. And just know that all of this will help our entire state, because everybody who's elected to our Senate makes a difference in what legislation is passed. It's time for all of us to activate for progress. So tonight, I'm going to lay some of the ground rules for the forum. This is how it'll work. I'm only going to say it once, not before each of the candidates. So starting, the candidates are going to appear tonight in alphabetical order by last name. To maintain the legitimacy of the individual candidates and their views, each candidate will not be allowed to view each other's video, and nor the questions or answers of the other candidate until their own individual time answering questions is completed. All candidates will be asked the same questions in the same order. Each candidate will have approximately 2.5 minutes to answer each question, and I will set an alarm, and you'll hear a little sound, and I'll also let you know when your time is up. And if we have time after answering the questions, I will move on to some of the questions from chat for follow-up. The main question, once it's asked, will be shared through the chat function. So if the people who are listening don't remember exactly what the question is, you can look at the chat function to see it. Let's see, follow-up questions may be asked by the moderator, myself, Maida Herschel, or individual participants, and the moderator will decide which questions are asked. All questions should be submitted through the chat function. There's no guarantee that the questions will be asked during tonight's event, and the director and moderator will decide if there's enough time after the candidate answers the initial question. So please remember that the chat function is public. Anything you write in the chat, everyone can see. So please only use the chat function to submit a question for the candidate. Please type your question completely so the moderator can read it straight from the chat. And do not offer any commentary on the interviews using the chat function. Each of the separate forums will be recorded, and once they're put together, the videos will be posted on our Nasty Women New Mexico website and to our Slack channel. All meeting attendees have been muted, so please double check that your microphone icon is marked out. So that guarantees that you're muted. If you're on your phone, please make sure that your speakerphone is turned off because it can give a lot of feedback. So I'd also like to thank the other members of our virtual candidate forum team, Maida Herschel, Marianne Dickinson, Terry Storch, and Paula Jackson. So let's get started. Our first candidate will be Katy DuHigg. So Katy, let's see, should I see Katy on here? Where is Katy? There we go. Okay. Okay. Katy, there you are. Hi, Katy.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Good to meet you.
You too.
Thanks for participating. So I'm going to do an introduction to our questions, and then I will ask the first question, okay?
Sure.
Okay. So the crises that we've been facing in New Mexico for decades have been amplified by this pandemic. It's shown us how normal has really not worked very well for the people of our beautiful state. It's exposed how ill-prepared and inadequate the existing systems and institutions are in addressing just the basic needs and rights of much of the population in New Mexico. It's highlighted the inequities in the economic security in New Mexico, the fragility of our social structure, and the overall instability of our economy. The absence of cultural and racial awareness while addressing many challenges has disproportionately burdened families, undervalued workers, the Native American population, the elderly, the poor, homeless, and disabled, those most vulnerable in our communities. It has also given us the opportunity to see how effective good leadership can be and redefined what normal will look like as we face growing global crises, the lack of clean water, climate-related disasters, mass migrations, the economic impact of plummeting gas and oil prices, and trade and supply disruptions. So with all of that in mind, I know it's a lot. The first question is, how do you see our government addressing these challenges in a systemic way to mitigate those impacts and better prepare for the future of New Mexico?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. This crisis has brought into sharp focus the inequalities in New Mexico. And, you know, they say never waste a crisis. I think this crisis is, the silver lining of this is that I think it's going to give us the opportunity to make some really dramatic changes that would have probably not been politically palatable before. For example, what I would like to see happen in New Mexico as a result of this is paid sick and family leave for all New Mexican workers. Recognizing that the essential workers who are keeping our society going right now deserve a living wage, and a huge focus on economic diversification. We're seeing the danger of putting all of our eggs in the oil and gas basket right now, and we can't continue to do that. So I think those are three of the top ways that we can address some of those issues. But there is no going back to normal from this because normal wasn't working. We need to take this opportunity to make these changes and to do them probably a lot faster than we ever would have done so before, which is a real opportunity for us.
Great. So in the one of the biggest impacts that we've seen in New Mexico is the impact of this on Native American population and the lack of basic resources that they have there. What are some of your goals for addressing those issues?
Every single New Mexican needs to have clean running water. I mean, that's just a basic need. And they need to have access to internet too. And so I think that as a state, we have to prioritize that. And frankly, what that's going to mean is it's going to mean that some of the other areas might have to wait their turn for things that are wants and not needs. But I think we need to really prioritize fixing these issues because it's just completely unacceptable that there are places in New Mexico where people can't wash their hands during this pandemic.
So we have just a few minutes left in this question, a few seconds left. Another question I have is, how will we address re-educating our population to deal with the changes that this pandemic has brought on?
I think that education needs to come, I mean, it needs to come from the government, but we also need to work with community leaders and faith leaders. And we need to be doing that re-education through people who are already in the community that are trusted and listened to. And so community leaders and faith leaders, I think, are a good place to start.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Something I did forget at the beginning of the questions is ask you to introduce yourself.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I'm Katy DuHigg. I used to be the Albuquerque City Clerk. When I was clerk, I reformed the city's code of ethics, election code, and public financing system. Before that, I was a consumer protection attorney for about 10 years, mostly suing big banks, private prisons, and insurance companies for abusive and negligent practices. I was the vice president of Common Cause New Mexico for many, many years. That's a nonpartisan good government group dedicated to fair elections. I also served on the Bernalillo County Code of Conduct Board, which is essentially the county's board of ethics, and also the county Property Valuation Protest Board. And I was a governing council member for the RFK Charter School. And right after I graduated from law school, I organized New Mexico's first statewide nonpartisan election protection program in the 2008 election.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to move on to our second question. So our state budget is being severely and negatively impacted by plummeting gas and oil prices. What measures would you take to address budget shortfalls, and what do you propose doing to strengthen and expand our economy in order to meet the socioeconomic infrastructure needs of our diverse communities?
So yeah, I mean, we're going to have likely, a $2.5 billion hole in our budget. And there's going to have to be cuts to address that. But what we've learned in the past is that across the board cuts don't help New Mexico. And they put us at the bottom of every ranking. So while there's certainly going to need to be cuts, they need to be thoughtful and strategic. And there's some areas that should be off limits. And I specifically am talking about education here. We have over the last 2 years, we've started getting our education funding finally back up close to where it was before it was decimated by the Martinez administration. And I think that we need to protect that funding while dealing with this budget shortfall. As far as moving forward, we have to diversify our economy. It can't just be oil and gas and the federal government. So we need to invest in renewable energies. We are in an excellent position to create a renewable economy here. We need to legalize cannabis and make that part of our economic that's a reasonable way to diversify our economy. We need to invest in, once it's safe to do so, our tourism industry. We need to oil and gas cannot be the pillar of our economy anymore. It's just too dangerous, both economically and environmentally.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any follow-up questions for that? Okay, let's see how much time you've got. You've got about another 45 seconds if you'd like to add anything to that, Katy.
I think for that question, that's probably about it.
Okay, we'll give you some extra time for a closing statement. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and turn you over to Paula for the next 2 questions. So Paula, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you.
I was just asking the question and talking to you, and I was still muted. Sorry about that. So welcome everybody again. Thank you so much. Thank you, Felice, so much. And thank you, Katie, for being here. Let's move on to question 3 now that I am unmuted. Okay. What are your ideas for New Mexico transitioning to a more resilient and inclusive clean economy? Will we be able to stick with this plan of yours? And what will the timeline be given the New Mexico economy following COVID-19?
So we are very well positioned to be a leader in both solar and wind energy. And so I would like to see New Mexico develop those industries here, not only for our own consumption, but then also to export to states around us and make that a significant source of revenue for us. As far as the timeline, I want it to be sooner rather than later. I would like it to be as fast as possible, understanding the realities of our current budget shortfall and the fact that it's probably going to last a couple of years. So I think that if we make it a priority, I don't think we need to wait a couple of years to get started. I think it's something that we need to start on now and make a priority now. But I'm not, I would be fooling myself and you if I were to say that that's something that's going to be easy to get done quickly, given the reality of our budget right now. So, which is why we have to prioritize it legislatively.
Okay, can you be more specific? Give me some actual specific strategies, some specific things that would be on your to-do list immediately if you get in office.
So, so specifically around developing a clean economy?
Yes.
Okay. So I think there's a number of things legislatively that we can do to help that happen. I think we can create financial incentives for existing energy companies to make it attractive and profitable for them to pursue those energies. I also think that we can make it too expensive for them to be harmful to our environment and to continue businesses as it is. I think we should be examining all of the open oil and gas leases and assessing which ones need to still be active and what can be shut down. That's a couple.
Okay, got anything else?
Of course, right now I'm blanking on anything else, but I'm sure I will remember the second I sign off.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, let's move on to question number 4. Our state law criminalizing abortion predates Roe v. Wade and would be in effect if Roe v. Wade is overturned. What specific measures will you take to ensure and provide quality, accessible, affordable, and safe abortion and reproductive health care for women in New Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, we need to, step number 1 is getting rid of that outdated law. Abortion is a personal decision to be made between a woman and her healthcare provider without politicians interfering. And the majority of New Mexicans believe that abortion needs to be safe and legal regardless of their own moral views on it. And so we need to repeal that law. And we also need to protect against more subtle erosions of reproductive rights by ensuring that these are decisions that, I mean, the government just shouldn't be involved in any part of that decision-making process. That's between a woman and her healthcare provider. We also need to ensure appropriate funding so that low-income women can make the same kind of healthcare and reproductive decisions that high-income women can. And so that means funding our public clinics and providing, making sure that we are providing appropriate healthcare to everyone, regardless of income level or anything else.
Okay. And how, again, I'm going to come back at you with specifics. Can you give me some specifics? Because this is something that our state, at least most of the Democrats in our state, have been working towards for a while, and yet we're still not there. So how can you make the difference? What can you do to make the difference?
One of the reasons we're not there, frankly, is because of the Senate. It's because of the coalition in the Senate between the Republicans and the conservative Democrats blocking. I mean, they're the ones who blocked HB 55, which would have repealed that 1969 law. So one of the things that I can do is win this seat and help drain that coalition that is blocking things away. But otherwise, it's a matter of being actively involved in our budgeting process and making sure that community healthcare providers are getting the financial support that they need from the state, and getting rid of that 1969 law.
Okay, and that's our time right there. So I'm going to have you hang on. Got to turn that off. Okay, all right. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes now, or about 2.5 minutes, since we had some extra time for a closing statement. Actually, I apologize for that. The closing statement is about a minute and a half, and we did let you do your intro. So you'll have about a minute and a half. I apologize for that, for a closing statement. And before you start that, though, I do just want to thank you again for being here and participating in this with us. So go on ahead, Katy.
Thanks. Thank you all for putting this on. This is the only forum that we've had in this race, and I really appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to do this. But, you know, I have a history of taking on the big guy and winning. And that's exactly what I intend to do in this race. But frankly, I need all of your help to do that. This is going to be, especially in the general, this is going to be a really, really tough race, and a very well-funded one on the other side. And so to the extent that any of you are willing to give any time or any funds, either to volunteer or to donate, we will make very good use of both your time and money. I would encourage you to go to my website. It's katyduhigg.com, and you'll see my contact information there. Please reach out. We will provide you with everything you need if you'd like to be involved, and we would love to have you. And together we will take New Mexico into this uncertain future in the best possible way.
Okay. Thank you, Katy, so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you are a District 10 resident,